Let's begin with the Items icon. The Items window consists of 4 tabs. If new items are being added, rather than editing an existing item, the first decision is to decide on a unique item number. Either enter an item number, assuming the item structure to use is known, or click the up arrow next to the New Item Number button. Here, this button is like a wizard that steps through the creation process of selecting the appropriate item components based on the structure selected. When the button is clicked, the system displays a window to first enter the structure code. Let's say we want to create a new item using the standard structure. Immediately, the system displays the segments that are required for this type of item to be added. To add this type of item, a 2-character category code must be entered, then a 3-character style code, and a 1-character color code. Either enter the appropriate code within the value field here, or if the segment is validated, use the finder to locate a valid code. To observe an existing item, such as the desk lamp, the system retrieves the information for the item. This particular item is based on the standard structure code. The field is unavailable for edit because the structure cannot be changed after the item has been added. Next, enter or select the category code. This is the default category the item is defined with. As discussed earlier, categories maintain the sales revenue and cost of goods sold account, among other accounts and settings. When the item is sold, the category code can be changed to a different code if desired. Normally, the category code is not changed because it determines how the sales and costs are classified. For example, the database here is a furniture distribution company. This company has decided to classify their items into product types. This way, financial statements can be subtotaled by any of the product types or segments. When entering sales orders, the category may need to be changed if the classification was not a form of item classification, but a form of customer classification. For example, possibly you want to summarize your sales or cost of sales by who is buying which products: retail customers, wholesale customers, or manufacturing type customers. You wouldn't know that for financial statement reporting purposes unless you change the category code when the item is shipped. The next field is the account set code. As discussed earlier, this field determines the costing method as well as the inventory control account. Clicking the Finder button here displays the account set codes that have already been added. Inventory control can track different items using different costing methods, although the costing method is typically not changed once the item is in use. The next field is where the default price list code is assigned. Again, this is only a default. The actual price is determined based on the price list code identified with the customer, but in the event one isn't specified, the one identified here is used as the default. The commodity number field can be used to record a value-added tax identifier, typically used in the UK. However, any code can be entered. Next, enter a default picking sequence number. This is a code that identifies where the item is located within the warehouse. A printed picking slip can include this number so a warehouse employee does not have to aimlessly wander around the warehouse looking for an item. A unique picking sequence code for each location can be entered. This is the default. The unit weight field is where the weight of the item is entered, using the weight unit of measure defined within the company profile or the weight unit of measure listed in the next field. The alternate item field is where another item number is assigned that can be used as a replacement for this item number. If the alternate item number entered here also has an alternate item number identified, both items appear as alternates for this item number when inquiring. Moving to the right side of the window, click the Allow Item Web Store option to allow Accpac's e-business web store product to sell the item. If if the item is not to be sold through the web store, or if an item is used only internally, rather than an item sold to customers, do not select this option. The web store program then does not display the item for sale. The inactive checkbox indicates if further transactions can be performed for this item, while the sellable checkbox indicates if this item is for sale. There may be situations where a particular item is not sold, such as a raw material item that is only used in a bill of material, or possibly an item that is used for internal purposes. The serial number checkbox indicates if the item requests a serial number to be entered upon the item being sold. Inventory control by itself does not track serial numbers internally. Accpac does have both a serial number and lot tracking module to handle and track serial numbers. Unselect the stock item checkbox if the item is a special order item where quality information is not to be tracked within inventory control. Clearing the stock item option allows the item to become a kit item if the user-specified costing method is defined. If the item is indicated to be a kit, the item number being added here is the master item number that represents a group of other items. For example, an electronics company may create a kit item that represents a particular home theater system, receiver model X, DVD player Y, along with a series of speakers and projector. The kit then is shown as a single item number, but when sold removes the individual component items. The lower portion of this window is used to enter any item comments. Up to 300 characters of comments can be entered, which can be displayed when entering transactions, viewed on reports, or included on printed forms. The units page defines what units of measure the item can be received and shipped. The fluorescent desk lamp has each assigned as the stocking unit of measure, but the item can be received or shipped as a case, a crate, or by the dozen. The conversion factor indicates how many stocking units of measure are removed when the item is sold. So for this item, it takes 24 eaches to make a case. If inventory control was instructed to only use predefined units of measure, one of the IC option settings discussed earlier, then only those units of measure defined can be entered. Although only selected units of measure can be defined, the default quantity of that unit of measure can be different. For example, a case may be defined as 20 items for one part number, but 36 items for another part number. The taxes page identifies the tax authorities that have tax calculated on the price of the item. The ultimate deciding factor, if tax is calculated on a document, is determined by the customary item matrix defined within tax services. However, listing a tax authority here is a way of identifying a tax authority override default based on what the item tax setting would have been. Tax authorities entered within the assigned category appear here automatically when adding new items. However, tax authorities can be modified for specific items in this window. It's important to know that just because a tax authority is not listed doesn't mean it will not be calculated. As discussed earlier, the system always defaults to tax class code 1 for any item tax authority. So, if a customer is taxable and the tax services item tax class code 1 is identified as taxable, tax will be calculated regardless if it is listed here or not. However, if tax class code 1 for a tax authority is taxable, but this particular item is not taxable for some reason, be sure to enter the tax authorities here that correspond to the non-taxable tax class code. For example, let's look at the gift card sales item. When a gift card is sold, Accpac has been instructed to utilize tax class code 2 rather than the default of 1. This is because you don't want to calculate tax on the purchase of a gift card. Tax will be calculated when the customer purchases an item using the gift card. The last page is where optional fields are defined for an item, assuming the transaction analysis and optional fields creator module is installed and configured for inventory control. Optional field values can be entered for any optional fields activated for the items function. There are two optional fields courses available, one focused more on the Financial Suite products and the other focused more on the Operations Suite products. Please consult Sage Software University to attend or purchase either or both of these sessions. Once an item is added, vendor details can be created for the item. Vendor details provide vendor cost and unique vendor item information that is used when creating purchase orders. Selecting the fluorescent desk lamp item, there are currently two of the possible non-vendor details that have been added. Vendor 1 is identified as vendor 1200, a U.S. purchasing vendor, and vendor 2 is identified as vendor 1400, a Canadian purchasing vendor. These vendors apparently are used often when purchasing this item. Going to the right side of the window, the vendor's item number as well as the default cost associated with the item from this vendor is visible. Keep in mind that information entered within the vendor details window is only usable if accounts payable and purchase order modules are activated for the database. If both modules are activated, then the purchase order module uses this information when purchase orders are entered for this item vendor combination, or when purchase orders are automatically generated for this item when the item is low in stock. Similar to the vendor details window, which links items often purchased from a vendor, the customer details window provides a list of item numbers that your customers identify to your items. Customer item numbers are particular to the customer and also specify the customer's unit of measure, so different customers can use the same number for different items. For example here, both Bargain Mart and Royal Black have unique item numbers for the fluorescent desk lamp item. By using this feature, orders and invoices can be printed using your customer's item number instead of yours as an additional service.
Please proceed to item prices.